Presenter this afternoon is Scott Noesen. Scott is the Director of Sustainability and Business Integration of the Dow Chemical Company. Noesen joined Dow in 1979 as an engineer in the Plastics Laboratory of Central Research. He was named Global Director for Sustainable Development in 1999, and that role is expanded to his current position in 2008. Noesen graduated from Purdue University in 1979, Bachelor of Science in Chemical Engineering. Please welcome Scott Noesen.
Oh, it's unplugged now. Got no power. Good? Good to go? Great, thank you. Let me just apologize right off the bat. It is certainly not my style to parachute in on a conference and then parachute out again. Unfortunately, I've had some personal circumstances in the last day that I couldn't be here for the start. I was, in fact, here 3 years ago. And that actually was the start of something that I think you heard about earlier today with international aid and the biosand filter and a continuing relationship we have with a customer of ours with international aid. And I'll talk about that in a bit. But I wanted to give you, it's what I call connecting the drops. This is, actually, I have this job of managing water. And it's interesting. When you look at USAID, it looks like the Dow Chemical Company relative to water because it's a cross-cutting theme for a lot of companies. You know, for us, we have a water market-facing business unit, so you know we have reverse osmosis membranes, intergalactic scale water purification, desalinization, you know, for industrial use, all the way down to biosand filter and really point of use display. We also have a lot of activity in operations. We're a big user of water. And I don't think this is really a whole lot different than a lot of multinational corporations where there's a lot of touch points, but nobody manages it. So I ran a little workshop a year ago trying to get all the people together, operations people, corporate reputation people, our business units, our government and advocacy. We're starting to talk about policy issues, serious policy issues about water right now, and really connect the drops. And it's now I've won the job too. So and you could probably appreciate how tough some of these jobs are, where you have a lot of responsibility. Hopefully, absolutely no authority whatsoever. I don't run the business, I don't run operations, I don't run our reputation campaign, I don't run our advocacy groups, but that's the whole point of what I would call a red thread. How do you take a red thread in a corporation and get things done? And get it done so one group is not saying something different than the other group. So that's really the start of this, and I'd like to start at the top because there's a story here. Bottom left, that's why. And the top is the vision of the company. And I don't care where you start. I come from sustainability space in general. Water is a component of that. You'll see how it fits in overall. And I don't care where you start in a corporation or an institution. You can start at the top. You can start at the bottom, grassroots. What makes a hell of a lot of difference is you get to the other end pretty quickly. And in our case, that's middle management, and that's part of my new job title is business integration. So how do you get this stuff really into the businesses, not just talking about it? So our vision to be largest, most profitable, if it just stood like that, that would be perhaps arrogant. But you'll see there are things we can't do, things we can do. Large gives us scale. It's what we do well. The second, the mission to constantly improve what is essential to human progress by mastering science and technology. That's what we're about. We're a science and technology company. I don't know of anything more essential than clean water, sanitation. So this goes to the essence of what we're doing as a company. And then finally, Dow values integrity, respect for people, and I want to come back up to the vision. Because the third part of the vision, it was our entree into sustainability and water. Respect. You know, a lot of people put respect for people as one of their core values, and they imply or actually state it's about their employees. For us, it's really about all of our stakeholders. And the aha moment for us was if you can actually gain the respect, figure out how to measure it, from a wide range of stakeholders, that's what we're after. Okay, so that's what's driving us. I won't spend a lot of time. We're big. We're over $50 billion, founded right here in Michigan, in Midland, Michigan, where I've spent unusually all of my 32 years of the company. That's a fairly unusual thing. Most people have either gone international or at least to wonderful Freeport, Texas. And you can read there, and 43,000 people. Fundamental Herbert Henry Dow, and by the way, water was the start of the Dow Chemical Company. Extracting brine from the brine wells in Midland, Michigan to create bleach, the first product of the Dow Chemical Company, 1897. We know a little bit about water. You can look at the details here. The point here is setting goals matters, and the fact of the matter is we are a bunch of engineers. That has good things and bad things associated with it. You saw I'm an engineer. But what engineers do well, if you put a goal out in front of them, they'll figure out how to do it. And these are the data that really go back to our, what we called our EH&S 2005 goals. So we were setting goals in 1995. I have affectionately called these do less bad goals. And you know, we're a chemical company, and there are consequences to being in the chemical company, and these are issues that we need to deal with and we'll always have to deal with. We'll always have these kinds of goals. But quite frankly, this is not sustainability. This is do less bad. And as we came to the end of 2005, we put in another set of goals, a set of 2015 goals. We found 10 years is a great time frame for a big company that goes through cycles. You can spend capital when you want to do it. You can do it on your scale. You need time for big projects. So 10 years makes a lot of sense. We try to measure, again, a bunch of engineers. We try to measure impact on these goals. The old goals, we spent $1 billion to save $5 billion. Okay? Primarily because of energy, not because of water. And one of our biggest challenges, certainly from an operations standpoint, and I think a lot of people, water's price curve is it's discontinuity. It's cheap, it's cheap, it's cheap, it's cheap, you can't get it. So there's no real curve that you can follow in terms of water pricing yet. I mean, a lot of people are talking about this, but that becomes a challenge for us then. So you can read the rest of this in terms of impact, how we've tried to relate that to things that people can understand. But wastewater, 183 billion pounds, equal to water usage for 170,000 homes. Again, this brings this whole concept of scale. Things that we're good at. Things that we're not good at, by the way. And one of the, I heard in the previous presentation, I've talked to some folks, you know, this whole idea of partnerships, and why do you do them? Well, you do them because somebody's good at some things and not good at others, and vice versa. We're not particularly good at speed. And we're not particularly good on the ground, you know, at some of these, you know, some of these world challenges. And that's why we find partners that can do that. I think International Aid is a good example who has that capability. So our perspective changed. So we did these goals. We thought they were great. But we fundamentally changed our point of view. Sustainability is our relationship with the world and how we contribute to solving many challenges. This is the do more good part of it. And water is a particular component. Our approach, it's more than just our actions, and it's more than just supplying products, and it's more than just an industry. One of the things about chemicals, tell me an industry where it doesn't come into play. You know, we are an enabling industry, and with that science and technology, we can help solve a lot of things. We can't own a lot of things, but we can help solve a lot of things. So these goals, and I won't get into detail on all of them, the framework is pretty simple when you talk about your relationship with the world. It's about our global footprint, on the bottom. It's about where we live, citizenship aspects. And then it's about solutions, okay? And the one I want to focus on are products designed to serve world challenges, solve world challenges, sorry. Interesting how that came about. One of the other things I do is I manage our Corporate Environmental Advisory Council. It's a bunch of external thought leaders. It's been in place since 1992. And they've been giving us advice, like on goals. And when we first presented goals, the do less bad goals, we presented the next round of do less bad goals, and they went, huh, that's interesting, but, and you were successful in your old set of goals. But how do you become more significant? How do you move from success to significance? And they brought up the Millennium Development Goals, and I have to tell you, quite honestly, a bunch of Dow leaders in the room weren't really aware. But then a bunch of engineers, we got studying and realized that, the world has established what the challenges are, okay, and water and sanitation are one of them. And that was, we had a water business. We're experts in reverse osmosis. We have science and technology to bear here. So this made a lot of sense to us. And I would say that middle management wanted to take that goal out. And our CEO said, no, that one's staying. That one especially is staying. And it's really related to trying to create breakthroughs. We said 3 breakthroughs. Why 3? I don't know. It's more than 2 and less than 4. And you'll know it when you see it, at the very end of 10 years. But clearly focusing on what those problems are and some of those solutions. What are those 4? I hope those look familiar. Affordable and adequate food supply, affordable housing, sustainable drinking water, improved health and safety. That's not word for word, but a pretty good articulation of the Millennium Development Goals. And the other neat thing is we actually have technology in all of this space. We play in the food supply through our Dow AgroSciences. We play in affordable housing through Dow Building Solutions. We play in improved personal health and safety in a number of our products. And at this point in time, we have a market-facing business unit on water. It just happens to be focused on the $1 billion, not the $2 billion. And I don't like using base of the pyramid, or the bottom of the pyramid. That's a pejorative. But the 2 billion people, you've seen the data already. And the reason is, it's not core to our capabilities. It's hard to find a business model that works. And so you got to take some different approaches here. And I'll finish up by showing what some of those approaches are, really. Just on an operations, we should never forget that our number 1 priority is we use water. Okay, and conserving that is absolutely critical. So we use 3 billion cubic meters of water. 87% of that is returned to its stream. There's some evaporation that goes on, et cetera, but we have 147 sites, I think, in the world, and in many of those, we have a relationship with the community, some very, very official. In Terneuzen in the Netherlands, we have a joint program where we take wastewater from the city, we clean it up, use it again as opposed to taking it fresh out of the river, use it twice, send it back. So we get what some would call 3 bites at the apple. And that's a very official relationship with some technology involved, all the way to some very small watershed type activities. A good example in Brazil, we actually were working with our Film Tech reverse osmosis membranes to desalinate water there. Well, it turns out in Brazil, you desalinate the water, and what do you get? What do you have left? Very salty stream, right? That's the whole point. Well, it turns out that salty stream was absolutely ideal for raising shrimp. And so we started a little cottage industry with the local folks there, creating economic development, environmental protection, and jobs. Sounds like sustainability. We do that at the very local level. I think that is one of our advantages. We comes from our history of the company. If you know Midland, Michigan, it's a town of 39,000 people, and we've always been a big player in a small community. And so that idea of community, I don't have to tell that to Rotarians, is core to us. And it's actually, I don't know if it's a competitive advantage, but it's something we do well. I mentioned the water solutions business. There's a lot of technology involved in that. There's a lot of collaborations. We've got a collaboration in China now with Omex Technologies. That's village level. So we've got absolutely intergalactic scale. We have the largest desalinization plant in the world in Israel using film tech reverse osmosis membranes. We're working on a membrane that's double the output right now. And if you know anything about membranes, it's all about energy management. And if you can reduce the energy, you reduce the costs, it becomes viable. And that cost curve is really coming down quite nicely. But you know what? That's great if you've got salt water. Some of the areas that we've been focusing on water crises, I do want to talk here and then finish up here, the idea of using all the tools in our toolbox. We have most recently given a different charge to our venture capital group. I mean, our venture capital group had a singular mandate in the company. Here's a wad of money, go make a bigger wad. And by definition, it was not strategic. It was make more money. Our CEO said, you know what, the rules have changed. Why don't you, instead of looking to get in and get out of a business, exit strategies and making money, why don't you look at finding deals, looking in the clean tech space, aligning with our strategies. And as a result of that, a direct result of that, we are now roughly a 1/3 owner in Water Health International, along with some fairly interesting folks out there, Acumen. And then finally, just again as a part of that, using all of our tools, we took, it's kind of a funny story, we went to our finance group and said, wouldn't you like to give a $30 million loan guarantee to Water Health International? And they all choked and said, what? But persistence paid off, and sure enough, that's something actually we can bring to the table. The idea of placing bets. Unless you're in this space clairvoyant or extremely lucky, you've got to place some bets, and that's what we're trying to do right now, place a number of bets. I don't know that, in fact, I know that not all of them will work, but I know you can't place just one bet in this space. So that's what we're going to be focusing on, is focusing on bets that can give us scale, significance, really solving the problem. That's why we were pretty excited today when we announced with international aid that we were going to expand our contribution there in terms of providing resin, plastic resin for the biosand filter, enough to make 300,000 units. And if you think about 4 or 5 people using each unit, that's over 1 million. Now we're starting to get into scale, okay, and that gets very interesting. That's a philanthropic venture at this point right in time. Thank you. Let me just say, and let me just close, that I call it also slow money, or patient. Some people call it patient capital. I don't think that there's going to be an immediate return to our business anytime soon there. But when people see the value of plastics in that application, when you see the picture of 6 people carrying a 300-pound concrete unit, and you think about nesting these things and starting getting jobs out there from folks who can fabricate these things, getting folks up into that next layer of economic pyramid, I think is a pretty cool thing. So with that, let me just thank you for your attention. And any questions? It's all yours.